Hey friends, it's Jeannie Jett here, and I'm so glad that you are with us tonight. We have been praying for you, and I just pray that this class is a huge blessing for you and a springboard to better emotional wellness and balance in your life. So, I want you to know, I know most of you, but I was going through the list of you, all of you that had responded that you were coming and just praying over everyone. And I was so burdened for us because I realized that in just this little group here of us attending this class, we have literally every single cause that you could possibly have for having a trauma or a grief in their life. We have it, all of it. We have people that have lost their spouse, lost a child or a foster child or someone that they wanted to adopt. We have victims of sexual abuse and verbal abuse and neglect as a child, wayward child, all kinds of PTSD situations with accidents. And so we have it all here, unfortunately, in our group. And so I'm glad that we're here together to kind of get some insight on this and to move forward with our traumas. And one of the things that Satan loves to do is to actually not even have us identify with having a trauma. More times than not, people don't even consider themselves a victim of a trauma or of really even having grief. But it's different. A trauma is just pain or wounding, and grief is loss. And we've had all of that. So Satan doesn't want us to know that or to take ownership of things and keep it in the dark. And so we have to be smarter than he is. So what I want to do, I'm going to be sharing later about trauma and grief. But before I do that, I want to share with you just some considerations just for emotional wellness and balance. 9 quick things that I want you to take inventory of with yourself on this journey. So number 1 would be prayer, and you're seeking God's truth with your emotions. And he's the ultimate healer. He can heal you in a second and with whatever you're struggling with. But are you praying earnestly and humbly and surrendering your emotions over to God and just asking for wisdom and insight into whatever may be your struggle? And it's a good thing sometimes when we have struggles because we can help others and we can be conduit of grace and healing for many people through our traumas. But we need to ask God for wisdom about how to deal with this and where we need to go with our emotions. And and sometimes emotions get a bad rep, but I'm thankful that God designed us in a way where we get to experience a variety of emotions. They give us empathy for others, and it helps us appreciate the good times. So we have to just ask God for, thank you for the emotions, be thankful for the emotions that you have, but also ask in a way like, I don't feel that this is healthy. What's going on? Just give me wisdom and turn that over, surrender that to God. So the first thing would be just prayer and seeking God's truth and looking at scripture about the issues that you are struggling with. The second thing I would ask you to consider is counseling. If you have ever been a victim of a trauma or grief and have not gotten counseling, I would just encourage you to do so. It is very freeing to bring things that are hidden in the darkness out into the light. And when you are verbally talking things out, sometimes you say things you didn't even quite admit to yourself. And so it's a blessing. I have friends that are counselors. My father-in-law is a counselor, and I've seen the benefits in my own family. So I just would highly encourage you to do that. We're blessed here in our little area of Morristown where we have a great Christian counseling group, and myself or Denise can help you with that. But it's not taboo, okay? It's just helping you get closer to the person God wants you to be. So don't think negatively about that at all. It's a good thing. And number 3 would be medical intervention. Now, I know we're all like, not sometimes the biggest fans of Western medicine, but sometimes you need to go to your medical practitioner and you need to work through, maybe if you've been struggling with something really long time, look at any medicines that you might be on and any side effects. Maybe you need to have some lab work done, have your hormones, endocrine system looked at, and all of that. So you know when that's appropriate to do. So that would be number 3, medical intervention. Number 4 is sleep. We all need sleep, and you can't do this and improve your mood if you don't have sleep. So if you have trouble with that, try out lavender, cedarwood, or a blend we have called Tranquil, which has those 2 oils in it and some other things. It's really wonderful. I use it all the time. And or Immunopro, which has melatonin in it. So get something natural to kind of help you with your sleep. And I guess number 5 is probably a really hard one for people, and that would be food. It's the easiest thing to change, but the thing that we're the most reluctant to do because we love our food. So the average American has a hugely inflammatory diet. And what happens is all the inflammation goes to your brain. You have inflammatory receptors in your brain, and doesn't go to your brain, it's in your brain, and you can suffer significant emotional problems with that. In fact, it's been really strongly linked to severe mental disorders. So look at your diet and try to weed things out that you think may be inflammatory. If you don't know how to do that or where to do that, I would suggest the Whole30 program. It's real popular right now. It really looks at eliminating things in your diet and it can help you figure out what foods are triggering what. That's a good program. Or just look online for inflammatory diets and things like that, non-inflammatory diets. So that's an easy one to change, and we need to be more willing to do so. Okay, number 6 is exercise. Well, that's another one. But it doesn't take a lot to improve your mood in terms of exercise. Just stretching helps, and simple things like walking. And the times that in my life where I've done exercise consistently, oh my gosh, it's like I'm a new woman. I have all this energy and I can handle things so much better. So really look at what kind of exercise you're getting. And then my favorite, number 7, my favorite number 2 is essential oils. Yes. Okay. So Edie told us all about essential oils and how their frequency is high and how they interact with the limbic system. So when you're dealing with emotions, let's tap into essential oils. And a lot of the oils I'm going to share later, like Trauma Life and Sarah and White Angelica, all of those have a frequency of 90 to 102. So why not use those to help you release emotion or release trauma and grief, but to help raise your frequency as well. Okay, and number 8, this is the hardest one, I think, is self-reflection. I want you to consider really looking at your behaviors and your pain and your loss, and look at the memories that you have of traumas and griefs in your life, and beliefs that you may have agreed to, and responses that you have made. All of that gets stored in your cellular memory in your limbic system, and it becomes an automatic response. So let me give you an example where I think it'll make more sense to you to really start to pinpoint and dissect all those like pet peeves you have, or those quirky personality traits, or those things where you overreact, or as Lisa TerKeurst calls them, those moments when you have aggravated accumulation, where you just you take something for so long and you just kind of blow up, or it's that same response is always triggered in this certain situation. Look at those things, because they're going to tell you what is going on, or what had maybe happened in the past, and what you have not released and let go of. So an example of that would be like if you're in the 2nd grade and you get bullied by a couple of the kids like all year long, and your teacher doesn't do anything, and even you've caught her laughing with them. So that is the memory. The emotional memory is that bullying and not being protected by your teacher. And then you at that point create this belief that, oh my gosh, I am not worthy, and you have this fear of rejection or people making fun of you. And so then that belief turns into the response that you never take risks, you avoid social situations, and gosh, 20 years later, and you haven't dealt with that, when you have your own child and someone bullies them or an adult kind of corrects them, like, you go crazy mama bear and you overreact, and people are looking at you like you're nuts. Well, that's what you kind of need to do. You need to trace things back and reflect back. And so it's that's where I'm at. Actually, I have sensed, actually, after reading Edie's book, I love the book, but it really did a number on me, as it did a number of you. And I started to have some fragments of memory, and God, with prayer and oils, I really started to dissect my behaviors and why, and looked at the things that I'm like super protective over, or really concerned about with my kids. And that, with some fragmented memories and things, really gave me the courage to face some things. So and dive in, and I'm there right now, and I'm just trying to pray for me that I can get to the end of the road and remember the things I need to remember, and to release it and let go of it. But I wouldn't have done that had I not really self-reflected and gone back and said, this isn't right. This is weird. Why am I doing this? Okay, and the last one, number 9, is so important. And actually, if I didn't mention it, when you're doing the self-reflection, if you're using the oils and going to counseling and praying and spiritual, you would want all of that together while you're trying to dissect your behavior there. Okay, so number 9, focus on your blessings and positive things. So Frederick Babel states that whatever we focus our attention on will automatically multiply in our lives. So I want to focus on God's love and the positive things in my life, so that those will be more of a blessing and abundance to me. So use your gratitude and your abundance oil, and just sit there and think and journal all the things that you're thankful for, all the blessings that you have. And yes, you have maybe some emotional issues, but think of all the good things that you still are capable of emotionally. So practice that. And if you've had a trauma, practice saying, I am safe, I'm protected, I'm loved, I can trust again. Say those positive thoughts, because we know when you have positive thoughts and when you pray, you raise your frequency. So let's do that. If you've had a grief, you may say, it's okay, I can be happy, I can be joyful, I can have inner peace. And just talk self-positive talk. Don't ever say, I am depressed, or I am a mess, or I am anxious. We are not the I am. There's only one I am. And if you're going to use that, you have to do it with a positive, okay? Like, you could say, I am happy, I am joyful. But if you're with those other things, you would say, maybe I struggle with depression, or I struggle with feelings of worthlessness. So say it that way. Our thoughts are super powerful in how we, our physical being and our wellness. So I just want to let you guys know that God is for you, sisters, and He wants to renew your mind, and He wants you to put on a new self. So I'm going to be back in just a second to tell you about oils for trauma and grief.